in descending, it dries the air and you end up with no rain and you end up with a desert. Under global warming, this cell becomes fatter and it tends to descend further north in the northern hemisphere, and that's basically taken in the Mediterranean region.
Every year, millions of tourists flock to Mediterranean beaches. However, this will stop as temperatures continue to rise. Places which are now temptingly warm will become parched, barren and unbearably hot. Local economies will suffer as tourism declines. For other regions, this rise in temperature and desertification will become a matter of life or death.
A 2-degree increase in temperature can lead to water stress in several parts of the world. By 2020, in Africa alone, there'll be between 75 to 250 million people who would be affected by water stress as a result of climate change.
If we're to avoid the effects of a 2-degree hotter world, individual efforts to reduce emissions by conserving energy at home and at work will need to become second nature.
The most important single thing that human society can do to reduce its impacts on the global climate is increasing the efficiency with which we use energy. More efficient cars, more efficient airplanes, more efficient air conditioners, more efficient light bulbs, more efficient appliances, more efficient manufacturing processes. There is tremendous potential.
In the United Arab Emirates, work has started on a project to take energy efficiency to the next level, the eco-city of Masdar. It'll be completed by 2016, a vision of the future. 50,000 people will live and work here. The city will be powered by clean technologies, so it will be carbon neutral. There will be no cars in Masdar. Instead, its residents will get around in driverless pods. It may look like science fiction, but all the technologies planned here have already been developed. Masdar will bring them together and give us an early glimpse of how we may live in the future. One futuristic clean technology is already in use in Shanghai, China. This train has no engine at all, and no engine means potentially no greenhouse gas emissions. This is the first high-speed commercial maglev train in the world. It travels at 431 kilometers an hour. So the 30-kilometer journey from Shanghai Airport to the city takes less than 8 minutes. Maglev is short for magnetic levitation. This train literally floats on air. Fan Mo is a director at the Chinese Maglev Research and Development Center.
Magnets fixed in the underside of the train force it into the air. Gravity tries to pull it back down. Together, these two forces keep the train levitating.
Once it's off the ground, another magnetic field in the track pulls the train along and slows it down.
The train has reduced friction, which means its efficiency is improved and it travels faster.
Maglev isn't a cheap technology because of the cost of laying the guide rail. Old train tracks would have to be replaced, but the benefits could be huge. The fastest growing source of greenhouse gas emissions is air transportation. Maglevs could offer an alternative to short-haul flights, which would completely change the face of travel across Europe, Asia and North America. But that won't happen right away. the Shanghai maglev is quick and efficient, but not totally emissions-free. That's because the magnetic force that drives the train is powered by electricity, and here in Shanghai, that electricity is mainly generated by coal. So for this brilliant technology to really have an impact, we need either to perfect carbon capture and storage, or come up with an alternative way of producing electricity. One country in the world has already done this, by harnessing nature. 99.9% of Iceland's electricity is produced with no greenhouse gas emissions. Iceland's fortunate because it sits right on top of a geological cauldron. At the Blue Lagoon Health Spa near the capital Reykjavik, people are bathing in the same geothermal water that's used to generate their electricity. This health spa was traditionally filled with wastewater from the Svartsengi geothermal power station, which produces no greenhouse gases. Here, superheated water from deep underground emerges as steam, which drives electricity turbines. Geothermal power is readily available in places like Iceland, where there's a lot of volcanic activity. They've broken their dependence on fossil fuels for electricity. But not for cars. Iceland has more cars per person than almost any other country in the world. But it's pioneering a new technology that may make gas guzzlers a thing of the past.
This car looks like any other car. It's a typical look of a gasoline car or any car. But this is a hydrogen vehicle, which has a fuel cell technology.
Fuel cell technology is being pioneered by John Bjorn Skulason's company, which operate 13 prototype hydrogen cars. Under the hood, a fuel cell splits the hydrogen into protons and electrons, its basic subatomic components. The electrons travel through a circuit and are converted to electric power, driving the engine. In Iceland, they believe fuel cells are a big improvement on the conventional batteries that power existing electric cars.
The advantage of a hydrogen vehicle is we can refuel a hydrogen car in 3 to 4 minutes, and we'll have a similar range in a hydrogen vehicle as we have in gasoline. So the difference with battery cars is that they usually take 5 to 8 hours to refuel, and they have only half of the range of a hydrogen vehicle.
Reykjavik has its own hydrogen filling station. Here, hydrogen fuel is made by a machine called an electrolyzer. The basic raw material is water.
The unit is connected to water and electricity. The electrolyzer splits the water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is evaporated into the atmosphere. Then we purify the hydrogen. The hydrogen goes into a compressor because the hydrogen has a much larger volume. So to have enough energy in a vehicle, we have to compress the hydrogen.
Once compressed, hydrogen can be pumped directly into the car, and the only emission is the liquid that went into the electrolyzer in the first place.
Just pure water. Excellent.
Hydrogen fuel is an exciting development, not least because you don't need to dig or drill for it. However, there are considerable hurdles to overcome. Currently, hydrogen fuel requires a lot of electricity to produce. So there's no net gain unless, as here in Iceland, the energy used to make it is emission-free. Iceland plans to be the first completely fossil fuel-free nation on Earth by 2050. For other countries who don't lie on top of an endless supply of renewable energy, there's another source that's readily available to be harnessed: the sun. Now in southern Spain, in the province of Granada, a breakthrough in green energy. A solar plant that works even when the sun doesn't shine. When it's finished, Andosol will cover 2 square kilometres and provide power for 50,000 homes. It's a huge step forward because a coal plant of similar output would emit 180,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide a year. The plant's 210,000 mirrors are curved to focus on these tubes. The oil inside will get hot enough to drive steam turbines, creating electricity. The secret ingredient in Andosol is inside these tanks. Molten salt. Salt conducts and stores heat extremely well. Excess heat generated during the day is absorbed by the salt. At night, this stored heat generates steam to keep the turbines running. In the future, this kind of technology could really take off. Huge solar plants could be installed across dry, sunny expanses of North Africa, Texas and the desert states. Vast areas, currently unsuitable for agriculture, could become ideal for power generation. Spain isn't the only country making huge strides in clean energy technologies. The UK is harnessing wind power by building the world's largest wind farm. With 271 turbines, the London Array will generate enough power for 750,000 homes. The world's first ocean wave farm has been launched in Portugal. The Palamas uses the snake-like movements of its jointed sections to generate electricity, eventually enough for as many as 15,000 homes. In Thuru, near Malai in India, human excrement is being used to power the town's streetlights. Other Indian cities are considering it. In China, the Three Gorges Dam is the world's largest hydroelectric plant. It's designed to produce as much as 22 large coal-fired power stations. Though not a true renewable, and despite its controversial reputation, nuclear power is undergoing a resurgence. It currently provides France with 70% of its electricity, and several governments are planning a new generation of plants. All these technologies are a step in the right direction, but there's another source of greenhouse gases that's not yet been tackled. A source that produces even more than the transportation sector. Livestock. The worldwide livestock industry is responsible for a staggering share of greenhouse gas emissions, 18%. That's more than what's spewed out by planes, ships and cars combined. That's because meat and dairy production need more and more land cleared for grazing, and a huge amount of energy is required to produce the animals' feed and refrigerate and transport the meat. The animals themselves are the source of one particularly harmful gas, methane. A mature lactating cow emits 105 gallons of methane a day. As a greenhouse gas, methane has more than 20 times the heat-trapping effect of carbon dioxide, so it's crucial to curb it. In a special airtight chamber, Christopher Reynolds from Britain's Reading University studies the animal's emissions in scientific detail.
The methane that's produced is a product of the fermentation of the cow's feed by microorganisms, methane-producing microbes in her stomach. And those microbes help to digest the feed that the cow consumes, but one of the byproducts is methane.
Contrary to popular